Welcome back to our broadcast on the post-Soviet republics and the failure of some democracy movements in the region. Belarus, located between Russia, Poland, and Ukraine, has often been called Europe's last remaining outpost of tyranny, and its president, Alexander Lukashenko, Europe's last dictator. Lukashenko has run Belarus since 1994 and rules it like a communist throwback. The state controls most industry. Private business is almost non-existent. Belarus is cut off from the rest of Europe and only has ties to Russia. Political opposition is firmly controlled. Take the disputed presidential election results earlier this year. The results gave Lukashenko a third term, a vote widely denounced as rigged. So the opposition, inspired by democracy movements in Ukraine and Georgia and Serbia, staged rallies and even set up a tent city in the main square of the capital, Minsk. But police stormed the square, arresting about 300 protesters. It was a clear defeat, witnessed by Frederick Lavoie, a journalist from Chicoutimi, Quebec. He traveled to Belarus for La Presse newspaper, knowing whatever the outcome, the protests were historic. His enterprise got him arrested, jailed for 2 weeks, and then deported. Lavoie is now back in Canada, and I met with him recently to talk about Belarus. Frederick, I'm really interested in why these countries, two of them, Azerbaijan and Belarus, have been able to sidestep the course of history and not have a successful democratic movement. How is it in Belarus that they're able to avoid this?
Actually, in Belarus, there's one main factor that made that the opposition movement failed, probably, and he's named Alexander Lukashenko.
The president?
Yeah, the president. He's really a strong president. He's been in power since 1994, and he takes more and more power every year.
How is he able to beat back, though, the popular demand, assuming that there is a great popular demand for reform? How is he able to push back the opposition?
Maybe we cannot say that there is a really huge demand. I mean, the opposition is still not marginal, but probably 30 or 40% of the population, and a lot of them still fear the government. A lot of them think that they are alone also, because since the media are state-controlled, state-run, especially the television. It's really it's an important issue, television, I think, because if we're looking at Georgia and Ukraine, there was an independent or even close to the opposition TV channel before the revolution that happened there.
Now, you were arrested and held for 2 weeks. You were not physically harmed, I gather, but what happened to others? What was the state of those arrested?
I wasn't beaten up, as some of them has been, a lot of them, I think. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because I wasn't in the paddy wagon where the policemen heard the people, but for instance, just next to me, somebody has been strangled by the policeman next to me with his scarf in the paddy wagon. He didn't die, but he was, I think, really hard.
Tell me, it's interesting that there hasn't been a huge mobilization in Belarus, obviously. The president seems quite secure. Psychologically, how much this is perhaps owed to the fact that people may fear democracy, having seen what happened elsewhere in Eastern Europe?
The message of Lukashenko was always we have stability, which is not the case in Ukraine, in Russia. So he was always talking about that stability. The old people receive their pension, and so everything's okay. And so, yeah, we can say that a lot of people feared not so much democracy as a change. Just a change that could destabilize the country.
Do you have much hope then, given this, that there will be major change in Belarus?
I don't think now. I don't think they will have like a change in the next year, in the next 5 years. Like still Lukashenko, and in 5 years Lukashenko can still be president. He can still run for another term. Of course, if Lukashenko is leaving the power, everything will change. because he is really the man. It's not a regime. I mean, it's Lukashenko's regime. It's not a regime with a lot of people who are in power. It's really the regime of one man.
When we come back, a look at what we're preparing for you next week.